All right, we'll call to order the Finance Committee meeting for Thursday, June 10th. If you'd stand for the prayer and pledge. Most High, glorious God, enlighten the darkness of our minds. Give us a right faith, a firm hope, and a perfect charity, so that we may always and in all things act according to your holy will. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, there are no chairs additions. Public comment period reminder, if you want to speak, please come see Ms. Suzanne. You'll have 3 minutes. Finance report section. We will start with our Ascension Economic Development Report for the month.
Good evening, Chairman Lower, members of the Finance Committee. Thank you all so much for the time you allot us every month. We look forward to this. We have been experiencing additional activity at our office, and tonight we are glad our professional people are here to present to you some of those reports. I want to call up our President and CEO first, Michael Eads, and after that, our Director of Business Development, Ms. Kristen Batulis. Thank you.
Thank you, Johnny. Members of the committee, referencing our project chart and our activity chart that we hand out to you monthly, see that we currently are working 20 active projects in various stages. I'm going to highlight the category of A, which is the most important ones that are highly active. There's 3 projects in there that I want to mention to you, actually 4. You see about a third of the way down the page, there's a project that's called Extrude, which we say pending announcement. That is going to take place. It's a small project, but in this economy, everything counts, as you all well know. And then also, there are 2 projects, one of them being the Project Sunday, which you see about the fifth or sixth one down, and then further down the page, Project Mulch. Those projects, both of those companies have options on one of them on a piece of land, the first one on a piece of land, and the second one on a building. So we always find that to be an obviously encouraging action when they go that far to take an option. So stay tuned on that. And then last but certainly not least, at the bottom of the page, IMTT, you may have read in the paper the other day, that company is the International Matex Tank Terminal, is located down on the river. They have gone before the Louisiana Public Finance Authority and get preliminary allocation for $250 million in GO-Zone bonds to expand the Geismar operation along with the operation they have in St. Rose, and I believe and also possibly in Gretna. I've been told by the bond attorney that the majority of that money will be spent in Geismar, but I can't pin him down on a number yet. So that's why we've got that $100 million. Hopefully it's more than that. And also can't pin them down on the number of new jobs, although there will be new jobs involved in that. So that's good news in this economic climate. Be glad to answer any questions you might have.
Mike, a question on IMTT. I think I read that IMTT was limited in terms of their GO-Zone potential for bonds because of some kind of cap. And there was a possibility that might be lifted, or
that is my understanding from the Bond Council that the State Bond Commission has done that in the past, and they're very hopeful that they'll do it in this case because of the magnitude of the project and the impact on not just one part of the state but 2 or 3.
So if that were to happen, that would expand it to what number? Do you know?
Well, no, I thought that they are capped out, I guess, on, and I can't recall what the total cap is, and so they would be allowed to issue more bonds than I guess are normally allowed, and I understand the bond commission has the authority to give them more allocation, is what that refers to.
It depends on the capital investment and
Right.
the number of jobs.
Right.
If they can suffice a
Right.
certain number, they'll expand the amount.
Right.
There is a cap amount, but they have exceeded it on bigger projects.
Okay. Questions?
Gentlemen, just a brief update on our marketing efforts for the parish. I placed on top of your packets a copy of a 2-page editorial that will be placed in the Baton Rouge Business Report annual real estate issue that's coming up. What's great about this one is we get a bonus. They're sending it to about 200 to 300 site selectors nationwide. So this is great, and the issue is highlighting the capital assets. There's a few other parishes that are participating as well too. So look for that in the real estate issue.
Very good. Does anybody have any questions? Okay, thanks, y'all. I neglected to do the roll call, Suzanne. We have Councilman Adrian Thompson, Councilman Randy Cluott, and Councilman Benny Johnson who are absent. Okay, we'll move on to item number 6, our 2009 audit presentation from Falco Winkler. Mr. Tommy Lejeune.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Once again, we have another year behind us. Certainly our pleasure, and we appreciate the opportunity to serve the parish as its auditor. I've got 2 packets in front of you tonight. One is a big document, which is the parish audit. It's in excess of 250 pages, so it's a major endeavor to get this thing put together. We will not be going through that in great detail tonight. What I do have secondarily is a smaller packet with it that is a presentation of the 2009 results. And basically what it does for us is summarize some of the significant financial aspects of the past 5 years. One quick comment relative to the big document, the audit report. This is the 3rd year that the parish has prepared a document for submission to the Government Finance Officers Association under its excellence certificate, applying for a certificate of excellence in financial reporting, which is a national program that's prominent amongst governments. But this will be the 3rd year in a row that you plan on submitting that, and we anticipate its acceptance and you getting that certificate awarded. Going into the separate document, the stapled copy of the presentation, basically if you move on into page 2, I've got just a number of highlighted areas I want to spend some time on with you, starting with total assets of the parish. If you look at the last 5 years in terms of what the parish holds in terms of assets, you can see just from the colors that you have two primary assets. You have cash and you own a lot of property. You know, property consists primarily of the facilities, vehicles, and equipment that you own, in addition to infrastructure improvements that's performed for the community. Those both areas, both looking at cash and property, have grown over the last 3 years considerably. And in particular, property, that you've done a lot of work relative to infrastructure improvements as well as facility enhancements. Cash, on the other hand, you can see has stayed pretty flat. It had a big spike in 2007, but as you recall, there was a large bond issue made in the East Ascension drainage area. So some debt was issued. We got the cash, and that's being spent over a long period of time. And so cash for the last 3 years has come down somewhat, basically because you're spending down the funds on drainage projects. If you move over into the next side of the page, looking at cash and investments, here again you got two major components of your cash. One, if you look at the first 3 categories, the blue, red, and green, that basically represents operational cash, and the yellow component represents your capital outlay cash, money held specifically for various capital projects that the parish undertakes, whether that's drainage, roadway work, or other capital improvements. As you can see with the first 3 categories, from an operational standpoint, you have accumulated cash over the last 5 years that you've enjoyed a good financial situation for some period of time, and as a result you've been able to save some money over and above what you need from an expenditure standpoint. So operationally you've done well. From a capital outlay standpoint, you've got a lot of money accumulated, and that what the graph indicates is that you've got a significant amount of cash earmarked for various projects, a lot of which is held for both roadway and drainage work. Going on to page 3, here we've got overall the revenues and expenditures of the parish. And if you look at the first graph to your left, all the resources that the parish has at its disposal, number one, the green and the blue area represent tax collections. And so once you compare that to your although you have a significant amount of money that you collect, that is the primary area of resources that you have to fund government. Over the last 4 years, going from 05 to 08, you were seeing an increase in the collections that the parish received, and that was primarily the result of sales taxes. Looking at 2009 compared to 08, you can see that taxes overall were fairly flat, but you did experience a fairly significant decline relative to sales tax, which the administration reported to you throughout the year. But overall, it was about a $2.5 million decline in sales tax collections, or about 7%. On the other side of the page are expenditures that the parish had over the last 5 years, and several observations here. Number one, if you look at the top component, which is capital outlay, and that represents a pretty significant part of what the parish has spent, particularly last year, you can see that basically for this past year, or the last 2 years, you've committed a lot of funds in terms of expenditures in this area. But if you just focus on the bottom part, in 2008 and 2009, those first 4 categories represent operational expenditures, and you can see from 2008 to 2009 you were relatively flat from a spending standpoint, which is doesn't happen by chance. That takes some effort. But overall, in 2008, one of the things that was significantly different and why you experienced such a decline in cost was we had Hurricane Gustav, and there was a lot of disaster relief efforts and money expended as a result of that hurricane. Moving on to page 4, basically I wanted to come here and focus on sales tax collections and the undedicated sales tax, the 1-cent sales tax that the parish collects. Here you can see that you've had, between 05 and 08, as I mentioned, each year some progressive increase in terms of collections, whereas in 2009 there was a slight decline, but overall about $2.5 million. Looking at the bottom part, which is the blue component, that represents the parish's 1-cent sales tax. That is your discretionary resource of money that you use to fund a number of different programs. Not only basic government operations, there's recreational support that's provided. You use a lot of this money for roadway efforts, both maintenance and capital outlay, and also funding some of your utility operations. And that's really shown here on the next graph, that in 2009 you collected about $15 million in sales tax, but looking at where you were for 2009, you spent about $13 million. And the point in all this is that even though you experienced a decline in sales tax, you've always taken a conservative approach to spending this money, that you'll budget down, or you budget every year with an increased decline. So even though sales tax was down, you positioned yourself to absorb that. And even with a decline, you didn't spend. You had basically a $1.6 million surplus in that area. The last thing I want to point out to you, which is on the last page of that handout, it comes in and depicts all of the funds that the parish administers. And basically I've highlighted a number of things I want to talk about. Number one, if you look at the first highlighted area listed as special revenue funds, these basically represent operational aspects of the parish. That these are the dollars held that funds ongoing operations and programs. And if you look at what happened, you started the year with roughly about $43.2 million in fund balance, and keep in mind you experienced a sales tax decline. You were still able to experience a surplus of about $5.8 million, and ended the year with right at $49 million in operational fund balance. Before I get off that part, what's not highlighted, if you look in that group of funds and come up to the second line where you have sales and use, S&U number 1, that represents the 1-cent sales tax fund. That is the parish's discretionary account, so to speak, that allows you to do a number of things from a program standpoint and an operations support standpoint. And as you can see in that fund, you had about $9.3 million to start the year. You had a surplus of about $1.6 million, leaving you with about right at $10.9 million in fund balance. And that's some money that typically you've used to sort of weather bad times. In addition to that, it allows you to just take on things, take on programs, and fund unexpected events as they occur. But overall, that fund is as high as it's ever been. That I can recall, maybe going back 10 years ago, where that was a number around $4 million. And so over time, you've been able to really build that fund. So operationally, you look really good from a financial position standpoint. The second highlighted area are your capital project related resources. Overall, you started the year at about $83.5 million in available resources. You spent down about $3.1 million on a number of projects, leaving you with about $80 million to go into this current fiscal year. As you can see, going in with what your currently adopted budget for 2010, you've roughly got about you plan on using about $24.7 million of those funds, but still leaving you at the end of this, projected at the end of this fiscal year, roughly about $56 million in available spending, most of which is dedicated for drainage and roads. And then the last point at the bottom of the page, overall you can see your surplus for the year was about $4.3 million in all these funds. The last thing I'll touch on is we did have an exit conference with certain members of the council that served on an audit exit committee and the administration. And in addition to this information, we did talk about a number of things from just a operational recommendation standpoint. We had no significant deficiencies or significant reportable matters in the audit. We had a few operational ideas that we shared, several of which the administration was either in the process of implementing or had implemented. One area that we spent some time talking about is grant administration, and in particular, if you look at what's happened with the parish relative to the receipt of federal and state money, several years ago you were at a much lower level than what you currently are, and you certainly seem to be more aggressive relative to getting external dollars. And based on some of the things we've seen that seem to be on the books, that seems to be expanding, which is a good thing. You're going out, you're doing projects, and you're getting external dollars that aren't local tax dollars to help fund various projects. I mean, that's what you want to do. But as a result, it increases the complexity associated with administering those federal dollars. And although we had no deficiencies and no reportable matters currently with how you're operating, we felt like some effort should be put forth to expand your capability in that area, given the level of dollars you anticipate getting, and the fact that you ought to be out asking for more. But overall, financially, it looks good. It's probably, and I would tell you that you seem to be in the best financial position you've been in since I've had the privilege of serving you as your auditor.
Okay, Councilman Bell.
Tommy, thank you for this good news. Keep coming back to us with that type of a message. I thank you and your firm for your presentation and y'all working with us all year. Gwen, you and your staff, thank you very much for keeping us on the right track. Tommy, you and your administration, great job. I think we're looking very well. This, like you said, it's the best we've ever been, so keep it up.
Any discussion? Mr. President?
I just want to thank Walker and Winkler for doing a good job again on the report, and enjoyed working with you, and got a good team. Everybody's working together, and the results are here. So to have a bad year, probably the worst year in the history of the United States economy-wise, I feel like we postured very well for the future. So.
Very good. And one other minor point I wanted to make is something else that we've discussed and was noted was about the multi-year budgeting. And I think with the revenue estimating conference that we just had at the maybe 1 or 2 finance meetings ago, and doing that every quarter, I think that'll help. And then another report was about cash procedures and everything else. And I know there's been some discussion of strategic planning about some technology and things we can use. We looking at PayPal as well for automated. Others, they have a local government option and things for handling things like recreation payments and things like that that could be done online, which would reduce cash flow and all that kind of stuff. So, anybody else have anything? Okay, thank you.
Thank you
Appreciate
again.
it. All right. Next, we have the 2010 millage review. Gwen?
Good evening, members of the Finance Committee. Before you, you have a little booklet entitled the 2010 Millage Review. The council, as the governing authority of the parish, has 2 major functions to fulfill in this process. First, you have to adopt the millages that you assessed, and then you have to sit as a board of review to hear any complaints about the tax rolls and the assessments that the assessor puts on it, and then give your decision. You're acting like a judge in that process, which will come probably in October. But anyway, the whole process will end with the Louisiana Tax Commission accepting the tax rolls for Ascension Parish, and that happens in about late November. This is not a reassessment year, so although the council is required each and every year to adopt their current year's millage by ordinance. So if you will turn to page 1 in your little booklet, I'll give you a brief review of it. I know you've been through this before, so we won't get into details. There's the procedures for the council to levy your millages. The legal authority is denoted at the top in that Article 7, Section 23 of the state constitution, among other things, requires the council to present the ordinance adopting your millage to the assessor so that thereafter she can prepare the tax rolls. And not only you, but every taxing district in the parish has to do the same thing. And then the statute that's denoted there is that refers to the ad valorem tax laws, and then the last statute is the open meetings law. So of course we adopted by budget, and you know the process to go through that, the introduction, public hearing, and then the adoption. It has to be published within 10 days after adoption in the official journal unless vetoed by the parish president. And then, of course, the effective date, and there's some restrictions put on the secretary of the council by law concerning the number 5, the affidavit. So we'll go on. We're not going to go over the reassessment process because we're not in a reassessment year. And turn to page 2. And this is where at the very end, sometime in probably October, the parish council will sit as a board of review and certify the tax roll for the entire parish as prepared and presented by the assessor. And you can go over that process. It's attached as attachment B. There's a few appeal processes naturally involved in the certification of the tax rolls. And the last one, you can appeal all the way to the district court in accordance with the guidelines established by law, and it can follow all the way up through the Louisiana Supreme Court. So then, of course, the parish treasurer has to issue a quietus after I get the annual audit report from the sheriff, certifying to the assessor on behalf of all the taxing districts in the parish that the sheriff, as tax collector, has exhibited satisfactory evidence that all taxes due, as shown on the ad valorem tax rolls of Ascension Parish for the current year, have either been paid or accounted for. And then at the bottom of page 2 is our millages. And these are our taxing districts and the 2010 millage and the expiration date on the side of each one. You'll notice the parish tax is a constitutional tax, and therefore it's perpetual. The health unit and mental health each have two mills, and that's parish-wide, and it shows you the expiration date. And of course, the mental health does expire this year, and that's the election will be scheduled in the fall at the November election. The library has two types of different millages, and they too will be calling their election this year. Well, and you as a council will have to call it on their behalf. And then we have our 7 lighting districts, and they all expire in 2012 with the exception of Lighting District 7 is 2014. East Ascension Consolidated Drainage District was just renewed, and it'll not expire again till 2018. And then West Ascension Drainage this year just had a successful election, so those dates will change next year. And they are 10-year mills. And then we have that Parish Council on Aging, that's parish-wide. And then Fire District number 3, this is their millage, 10, it expires 2014. And ACUD number 1 has 10 mills, and that's 2031. All millages are 10 years, except the constitutional millage for the general fund. And one of West Ascension Drainage's millage is for 5 years, and the utility district number 1 is for 25 years. And then just a few facts that you might find interesting. The definition of ad valorem is according to value. Taxes are assessed a dollar amount according to the property value. And in 2009, because that's the latest information we have, 1 mil equals 1/10 of 1 cent. And it will yield parish-wide $825,293, and in the rural areas outside the municipalities, $724,115. And all parish taxes are subject to homestead exemption, and that's the taxable value of property equals the fair market value less homestead exemption. That's where it's taxed on. Properties is assessed in 3 categories. Real property, which is your land and your immovables. All land is assessed at 10% of fair market value. Residential buildings are 10% of fair market value, and commercial buildings are assessed at 15% of fair market value. Personal property, that's the movables like equipment, furniture, the inventory, is 15% of fair market value. And then the public service property, our utilities, that is assessed by the Louisiana Tax Commission, and it's 25% of fair market value. Then if you go on to page 4, this is the ordinance that we would like to for you to introduce at your next meeting in June, and then we will actually conduct the public hearing and adopt the ordinance at your July 1st regular council meeting. And then the very last 2 pages are some charts I just prepared for you. You can look at, and if you have any questions, I would be glad to answer them either tonight or, later on after you have time to look at it. The first chart is the property taxes that are according to that ordinance that you're going to adopt. These are our tax assessments. It equals in 19.7 million. And of course, that's based on 2009, but naturally, because the assessor hasn't assessed the property yet for 2010. And then the last pie chart is all the taxable property in Ascension. This is what you would sit at as a board of review to view all of these taxing districts in the parish. And that amount equals to $88.5 million based on 2009 figures. And if you don't have any questions, or if you'd rather just look at it, and if you have any, you can contact us at any time, and we'll be glad to answer anything.
We need to move to put this on.
Do we need to make a motion to
Put it on the meeting.
put it on the next agenda?
Right, that's
I'll
what
make
we
that
would ask,
motion
that you
right
put it on
here.
the next council agenda for introduction.
Motion by Councilman Todd Lambert. Second by Councilman Dempsey Lambert. Any discussion or questions? Okay, any objections? Motion passes. Okay, Gwen, next we'll move on to the sales and use tax report for the month.
Right, and you have your regular sales tax report before you. And this is for the month of May collections, which represents naturally April sales. And you have our 3 taxing districts, and you can see we're comparing May collections year-to-date from 2009, and month-to-date, from May, and then year-to-date through January through May collections. And if you look at all the percent of difference for each of our taxing districts. You can see that they're up for the, compared to May of last year, and they're breaking even for year to date. And then budget comparison, which is what we need to look at too, you can see the 2010 budget for each, and these are only for the sales tax collections. And you can see we're at 41.66% of the year, and our collections are 46.9% and 49.5% and 48.6%. So we're ahead of our budget, and we're leveling out on year-to-date, and, you know, we do hope that trend continues or increases at some point. And then the charts behind it, you can look at it as you have time. And if you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer.
Okay, very good. That's good news. Any questions? Councilman Schicksnyder?
Well, thank you, Gwen. It's a very good report. Just want to make people aware, as we show all the taxing districts, when people perception of parish government and spending and things of that sort. We just received a very good report on what we do with our money when we get it from the audit, and did a very excellent job. We also, I think people need to know that as you look in, and we all pay out taxes, but parish government has 3% of the total property taxes in this parish, $2.2 million that goes to parish government, compared to, for example, a school board has 57% at $50 million. And the libraries have 5.6 million. Law enforcement has almost 12 million at 14%. We're, just to let people know, you know, I think we're very studious with our money. We don't go out and grab a lot of monies, and you know, people need to realize that as people move in, that it's very tough to provide the services with the monies that we do have. So a lot of people don't realize that until you really look at it.
Any other comments? Okay, we'll move on to item number 9, the revenue and expenditure report for the month. Amanda?
Good evening. This is your regular finance report for the month of April 2010. Currently, we are at 33.33% of the year, and the items highlighted in green are funds that are either under this percentage for revenues or over the percentage for expenditures. And on page 4 through 6 of the report is an explanation of those funds for being under or over. And on the last page of the report is a list of the disbursements issued for the month of April. That's over 100,000 for your review. And if you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer.
Okay, so we continue to hold the line on expenditures as well, setting ourselves up for another good year, it looks like,
Right.
in terms of managing to the budget, or underneath the budget, I should say.
Right.
Questions? Okay, we'll move on to item number 10, the 2010 budget amendment number 5. Dawn?
Good evening. You have before you an ordinance that is for budget amendment number 5, which will amend the operating budget as follows. For East Ascension Drainage Fund, expenditures or major repairs, flood control, $65,000. For the Recreation Fund, expenditures for site work at parks, $100,000. Site work at parks, $100,000. Site work at parks, $20,000. And site work at parks, $50,000. Acquisitions, buildings, and land, $30,000. In utilities funds, you have expenditures for professional services for $49,000, professional services for $50,000, and professional services for $75,000.
Okay, I'll need a motion on the ordinance. Motion by Councilman Bill. Second by Councilman Joseph. Discussion? No discussion? Any objection? Okay, motion passes. We'll move to item number 11, our contracts reports. Kim?
Good evening. Before you, you have the monthly contracts report for the month of May, and if you have any questions, try to answer them.
Okay, we'll give everybody a minute to review. Anything jump out? Anybody have any questions? Okay. No questions, then we'll move on to item number 12, Lamar Dixon report. Mr. Vogt with his inaugural report.
Good evening, Finance Committee members. It's a pleasure to be before you. As you said, Mr. Laura, my inaugural report. I'll try to keep this brief. I would like to focus my attention, though, to our actual operating revenues and operating expenses, as opposed to getting into the real estate transaction, since that's still pending and everything. But anyway, we started out with our fund balance of $92,963.48. Currently, with our miscellaneous budget, which is our operating budget of $1,270,000, at this point, we have spent $599,237.96 in the last 4 months, and that's right on where we need to be budget-wise. We're actually ahead of the game as far as the percentage used up to this point. Our operational expenses were budgeted at $1,30,400. Our actual expenditures and encumbrances amount to $465,608.94. Again, we're not as good in the budget there as we were on revenues, but we're looking very respectable there and are ahead of the game. Our projected ending balance was $60,913, and currently, as of April 30th, we were standing at $218,182.93. Any questions?
Councilman Shakespeare?
What's the future, what's the summer look like for activities?
Things generally do slow down a little bit during the summer, so I expect a little bit of a lull, but we have an extraordinary late summer, beginning of fall coming up, one of the busiest times ever in the building. I'm also working on some new events that I won't be ready to announce yet, but we're looking at a possible concert, another performing arts type event, along with the other agricultural shows and so forth. We've got a large motorcycle rally that we're renewing for next year, and also a nationwide rally for 2013. And we're in the process right now prospecting for all kinds of new events. You're going to start seeing a lot of different things than you've seen in the past. My focus is to broaden the scope of what we're doing at the Expo Center.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Before we move on, anybody have any other questions? No? Okay. We'll move to item number 13, Dancing for a Cause funding request. Is Ms. Sharon Morris here? Chairman, would you mind giving the committee just a brief overview of the event and history?
Good evening. Dancing for Cause is a fundraiser. We raise money for individuals with disabilities and handicaps. We did the event last year. The event sold out. We had it at the Civic Center here, and because it was sold out, we decided to move it to a bigger venue this year, which is the Lamar Dixon. And we are asking for some type of contribution or donation to help us with this event, at least $5,000. I brought some of our individuals with us. Can some of y'all come up? Come on. These are some of the individuals that we serve. These are some of the individuals that we serve, and what we're trying to do, we're trying to make a better quality of life for them. Because of some of the budget cuts that we've had this year, we're kind of short on funding to do a lot of the things that we are needing to do. And some of the things that we need to do is to finish the landscaping for our new facility that we just finished over on Parish, our elderly daycare and respite center. We need televisions, office equipment, outdoor seating, fencing, activities and games, and you can just name it. The money that we raised last year, we raised $15,000. We used that money to furnish the building, but we still need some other things for the building. So we are asking for your support, for your help, and I know I've spoke to many of you several times, so we are asking for whatever y'all can do to help us with this event. I also have with me Miss Anita Kane. We put on Dancing for a Cause last year together. This year we formed another alumni of other people to help us with the event to make it a little bit easier, and it's going wonderful. We have some of the other people that's here. Kelly? Kelly,
Those
stand.
individuals that part of CLEA, could you please stand?
Okay, so we have some other people that's just as concerned about this event and the support as I am. Basically, the event is going to be July the 10th. We're going to have a VIP reception starting at 6:30. From 6:30 to 7:30 will be the VIP reception, and then at 7:30 the competition will actually start. Y'all have any questions for us?
Well, thank you for coming. Also send out some of the letter and the budget and background information, everything to the rest of the committee. So I believe they've had a chance to review it, and just want to say, unfortunately I missed it last year, but I'm hoping to make it this year. It sounds like a great event and a great cause. And I believe you're in the letter, and as you said, you're asking for a $5,000 contribution. And the chair will entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman.
Councilman Shakes now?
Unfortunately, I'm going to have to recuse myself from this vote.
Sure.
Sorry.
Okay. Motion by Councilman Dempsey Lambert. Second by Councilman Dennis Cullen. For discussion, Councilman Valentine?
Mr. Shakespeare can't dance anyway, so.
Very good. Anyone else? Councilman Joseph.
My question is, and it's just a normal question that we always ask, and I just don't want anything to affect that this is a one-time contribution for this fiscal year. I think we had an incident in the past that someone asked for it, and if we thought it was a reoccurring, it was in the budget, but it's not a reoccurring thing. They have to request it every year. So I'm just making sure there's a this year request.
Okay.
Thank you. This year. Okay, got it.
Okay, any objection? Motion passes.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, item number 14, change order number 1 in the amount of $45,103.12 for renovations in addition to the Ascension Parish Library Gonzales branch. Ms. Angel.
Good evening, gentlemen. I have tonight 2 change orders for the construction and renovation that's going on at the Ascension Parish Library. Change order number 1 refers to some soil amendments that had to be done on the soil. As you all are aware of, as soon as we removed the concrete from the existing parking lot, it started raining and raining and raining. So it affected the soil. We had to resort to doing some amendments. And they amended the soil, and then when they were trying to finalize it, it resulted in lime treatment also being required. So those are the two major costs, the two costs involved in change order number one, as well as a request for rainy days. For October, they requested 13 days, and of course, that was the wettest October on record ever, so, it's reasonable. And in November, they requested 1 day. So the total amount of this change order is $45,103.12. This has gone before the library board already, and they have reviewed it and approved it.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Motion by Councilman Todd Lambert, second by Councilman Kent Shakespeare. Any discussion? Any objection? Motion passes. Item number 15, change order number 2 in the amount of $32,937.99 for renovations in addition to the Ascension Parish Library at Gonzales Branch.
Okay. On this particular change order, it refers to a request to install wood base molding in the main part of the library, which is the public area. We currently have wood base molding in the existing facility, and the library board requested this so that we could maintain the same look throughout the building. It also, we had in the IT room, there's a piece of equipment that we have that requires a specific type of electrical outlet, and we have requested that that be put in. We have a credit because in the initial specifications, they supplied foil-based insulation, and we have insulation with no batting at all. And then the last item is the fact that we moved the existing detection system that we used in Gonzales to the Dutchtown location, so that the Gonzales location, which will now have 2 entrances, would have 2 detection systems that are similar. So those items total $32,937.99. And again, these items have gone before the Library Board of Control, and they've approved them.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second. Motion by Councilman Todd Lambert, second by Councilman Oliver Joseph. Any discussion? Any objection? Motion passes.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you. Okay, in our general business section, item number 16, authorization to pay $50,000 to the Army Corps of Engineers for completion of the sewer effluent pipeline and pumping station for the Parish Central Treatment Plant. Parish President?
Yes, this is a request that another $150,000 that's available to finish the outfall line to the river and to design it. And we have a request from the Corps. Hopefully this is the last funding that we have to put up on this. But we've been asked by the project manager, David Ohm, senior project manager, and I'd like him to come up and maybe explain what the money's going to be used for and where are we on the rest of the design, and just kind of give us an update.
Thank you. Again, my name is David Ohm. I'm a project manager with the Corps of Engineers Programs and Project Management Branch. And I'm here with Chad Chauvin, there he is, and Manish Mardia and Roland Mura of Hartman Engineering. I appreciate the opportunity to address the Finance Committee as a Corps representative and partner with Ascension Parish. The Corps is currently in a design agreement with Ascension Parish to provide design for a wastewater treatment plant, an effluent pump station, and effluent force main. I'm actually here, as the parish president mentioned, to request well, actually offer the opportunity for the parish to receive an additional $150,000 of federal funds. Now, those funds are only available if we receive a $50,000 match that is required under our current agreement from the parish, which is the 25% of that $150,000. And you know, hopefully with that match, we can complete the design of all three components by the end of this fiscal year. And I know this project's probably been going on for a few years now, and we're in a unique position to actually complete this project, and I hope the Finance Committee will agree with us and provide us the $50,000 match. And I'm here to answer any questions that you might have on the project.
Councilman Shakespeare?
My question is, how much more we're going to need after this?
There's
To
a few
complete everything.
variables.
To complete everything.
There's a few variables that are involved. I don't have all the details, and maybe Chad can assist me on this, but there's several variables that are in the parish's court. We still don't have all of the information we need from BASF to acquire the property that the force main will pass through. There's surveys and borings that still need to be done, geotechnical work, and we also have some variables with the permit with the Coast Guard and DOTD as we are going to discharge into over the Mississippi River levees. So there's several variables that could possibly increase the cost, but if all goes well, the parish can get the information they need from BASF. I don't anticipate any increases in the cost, and we should be able to complete the design. Now, there's still, like I said, there's variables. We don't hold all the cards with the Corps. A lot of it lays with the parish, but as we see it, we don't anticipate any additional funds.
Now, just if I can just make a point, this is not an increase to the original estimate, but rather we received $460,000 in federal appropriations for this fiscal year, and then received a non-federal match for that amount to progress the project up to this point. And it includes everything. It actually includes the completion of the wastewater treatment plant, as well as the effluent pump station. And it also includes some funds to advance the force main, effluent force main, to include some of the field surveys that he mentioned, but it did not include enough to complete the actual force main design. And so this additional sum of $200,000, which would be 150 federal, 50 non-federal, would allow us to complete that design and should allow us to be able to finish the entire design.
Okay, what will be the total cost when you're finished? The total cost for design?
Of the...
You have that information?
Okay.
Of everything?
Okay, everything, well, no, actually, that's a good point. Let me just, if I could briefly explain the Section 219 program. It authorizes us to provide technical planning, design, and construction assistance to the local sponsor. And the way that it works is that it's never, federal funds are never put on the president's budget. It's always added by congressional acts. And so for that reason, we have to look for increments of work through the fiscal year as we receive it. We actually have an ongoing partnership through 2 design agreements that were executed in July 11, 2002 and February 3rd, 2004 for continuing planning and technical assistance. And so through the years, we have provided, I believe, a master plan, an IED plan to assist in projects that required this information to get the EPA grants, things of that nature. And so through the program leading up to this point where we're now designing this wastewater treatment plant and the effluent system, the total amount, the total project costs are approximately $2.9 million. With of that amount, the federal match is $2.2 million roughly, and then I believe it's $726,000 from Ascension Parish. So through the history of the program, Ascension Parish has provided us approximately just over $700,000. In return, you've received basically a $3 to $1 amount, and this design is a part of that program as we've continued to go back, as we've received funding from Congress to assist you in your economic development or environmental infrastructure program.
And you don't have it broken down just for this project as to how much it actually costs?
I do know that I don't know exact details about the initial phase of this project, but I know that this project was ramped up sometime around early 2009, and from that point we did an estimate to complete the project, and that amount for these three items that he mentioned was $920,000.
Okay.
And so now that includes basically the work that we've done so far, plus completing this design, plus the project management and planning assistance, plus completing this additional $200,000 is included in that $920,000.
It also included an environmental information document that I hadn't mentioned before, but that's required to receive environmental clearance for any work we're going to do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so to be more specific, that includes finalizing the design of the wastewater treatment plant, the entire design of the effluent force main, and finalizing the effluent pump station, the EID that he mentioned, and then program management support.
All right, when is this design going to be completed?
We're targeting
We can
the
start
end of
construction.
construction.
And we can start construction when design
As
is
soon as we
completed.
turn the plans and specs over to you guys, it's in your court to bid it out, and we're actually going to provide with our design a technical review of our experts that are going to review our design, review the plans and specs, and to make sure that this is a constructible, biddable project, so you shouldn't have any issues.
I understand, but what is your date?
Guessing for a timeline.
How about a date?
Schedule.
The end of this year,
Okay.
December.
We are scheduled for the bond commission in October and November,
Okay.
provided that we move forward with the loan. We have been in contact with DEQ. We met with them this week. We had a joint meeting with everyone concerned, and basically that's what we're shooting for. We did send out our letter to invite people for proposals on the private-public partnership. In the next 20 days, we should receive anyone that of interest that wants to. We have to send them a copy of the proposal within the next 20 days, and then 30 days thereafter. So we have a schedule that we are on, and basically right now, the last step would be like in November, that we would actually, and you could go bid it out, but you don't have to, until we sign that document. And I want to make sure before we sign the document that we got enough people online, as I discussed with y'all prior to that. So we will have a completely designed plant. We will have everything designed that needs to be designed to build the plant and actually start construction. And if everything goes right, in November, we will be finalizing everything with the bond commission for the money from DEQ, and then we can move forward. We also have an additional $5 million to do some other research and studying on the existing plants that we do have. So we got about a $23 million total project, but a lot's going to hinge upon what those proposals look like and when they come back in. So, and we have also added to our staff, Mr. Larry Shriver, who is going to be our sewer expert to work with the Corps and everyone else to make sure we're getting what we paid for. He will be working like 40 hours a week strictly on this project, and he's done it before. He's got a really good resume, and we've contracted with him at a rate of $7,000 a month, which is what you see here. If you look at the budget amendments, that's what this is all about. So, but we will have someone working with the Corps, tying all these loose ends together. That's pretty much an expert on how to.
All right, now the Corps will act as project managers for the construction of it?
No.
No, we're
No.
just
It won't have
providing-
anything to do with
No.
construction?
Exactly.
No. When we bid it out, the Corps is going to be finished when they finish this design, and not hopefully, but we should be finished with this group if we move forward, probably in September, right? In September, October.
It's December is current.
Yeah, well,
schedule is-
December, but
Right.
this year.
This year.
Yeah. Anyways, I know it's been a long process, and I know a lot of you have been here from the beginning. I wasn't here when it began, and hopefully we can be here when it's finished and get this thing moving in the right direction.
Any discussion? Councilman
You know
Joseph?
Max about money. I just recall a couple of months ago, Mr. Grant came up in here and told us, yeah, another $170,000, and that's gonna be the last payment. Well, once again, here come the Corps, looking for some more money. And I guarantee you, before the month of December get here, you're gonna find some way other way to come and ask us for some more money. So if you say this the last time you asking us for money, I don't believe it.
I anticipate it being the last time.
You anticipate it, but I know better. And
You know,
I
but
have
some-
only been
certain
here
things
for
are-
4 years.
Right.
And I done seen, I don't know, about 15 different engineers come up here from the Corps of Engineers. I hope it's not the last time, and I know we need that, we need the sewage treatment plant on this side. But right now, I think you just taking advantage of us, really, honestly. So, that's my comment.
Okay. Anyone else? Mr. President?
All I can say, Mr. Joseph, is that we ended this thing about 700,000, so another 50, we need to finish it out, and hopefully we can do so. I think the finished project and product's going to be a good product that we can utilize, and as I said, everything's going to hinge on being able to make this the whole package come together, and the key proponent of it is going to be the private-public partnership, whether or not we can move forward or not move forward. But we will always have a plan for a plant. And BASF, we don't anticipate any problems. It's just a little bit of technical work that we need to do. They've given us pretty much the okay to do what we need to do. So that's not going to be a hindrance as far as I can see.
Mr. President, I'm for the project. That's not a problem. It's just the Corps. It's just the Corps. Every time they come here, that's all.
Well, you know, I'm sorry you feel that way. I mean, we're here to serve you guys. We're a partner with Ascension Parish. I know some of these things can be frustrating, but again, we have a team of experts that are working on this project, that are dedicated to this project and seeing it through. The Corps has a $15 billion program this year, and we are committed to every project, no matter how large or small the budget is. And I just want to let you know that.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Okay, I guess,
I'll make
do we
the
have a
motion to move forward with
Motion
it.
by Councilman Joseph, second by Councilman Schexnayder. Any more discussion? Any objection? Motion passes. Thank you. Okay, item number 17, ratification of malpractice insurance for Ascension Counseling Center. Is Ms. Suzanne Hamilton here tonight?
For any of you that don't know, this is Miss Suzanne Hamilton. She is the Director of Mental Health. She was acting director for quite a while, and we saw fit that she had done such a good job that we decided to put her on permanently. So.
Thank you. Good evening. What you have before you is a malpractice insurance for Ascension Counseling Center for our social workers and counselors. This is required malpractice insurance, and it also includes malpractice insurance for the health unit nurses and for the nurses in the Ascension Parish Jail.
This didn't make it in our packets, I don't think.
And it's in the budget.
It does. That's what it's in the budget, and we're same amount as last year.
Same amount as last year.
Okay.
I'll make that
Motion by Councilman Todd Lambert, second by Councilman Pat Bell. Any discussion? Any objection? Motion passes. Thank you. Okay, item number 18, permission to seek bids for playground equipment for Lowry Park in Donaldsonville. Councilman Joseph and Mr. Gotro.
Yes. Gonna, you gonna have? You got it?
I want to apologize for not making it last month. I was kind of under the weather, but I'd like to put 18 and 19 together. It's all right with y'all. We'll probably have 3 steps on this, but we can really complete it. Mr. Dennis Cullen is going to call a recreation meeting this Thursday at 5:30. We're going to meet with the West Ascension Recreation also because we finally have the agreement together, to present to the commission and then to y'all also, probably Thursday night. This is going to be capital outlay money. It's not coming out of the recreation budget. Well, it's coming out of the west side, right, Oliver? Correct. Be capital outlay money they put aside over the last 2 or 3 years. And we'd like to have permission to bid on those 2. And as soon as we go to the other 2 committee meetings, with them, be sure it's clear, then we'll move forward with it.
Okay.
Make the motion that we go forward with the item 18, to seek for bids for playground equipment for Lord Park.
Motion by Councilman Joseph. Second by Councilman Schicksnyder. Discussion, Councilman Lambert.
Yeah.
Money in the budget for this?
Yes, in the capital outlay.
It's in the capital outlay. And what kind of money are we talking about?
It's about 30, not quite $30,000, I think, for the, we got to put out for bids first,
Okay.
And the climbing wall is going to be probably about 19 to 20. Same thing we had done the one in Modest.
And if I may, over the years since we had this agreement between West Ascension Recreation, over the last 3 years, we have been putting $50,000 in capital improvement for parks like this here outside the city limits. So these funds here is going into parks outside the city limits. The agreement was that the city put up their capital outlay fund, and Parish did, and our fund was directly for parks outside the city.
All right. Okay. Thank you.
Item 19.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Any objection? Motion passes. Item 19, climbing wall at Lemonville Park. Mr. Gotro just explained. Need a motion and a second as well. Mr.
So what do you, excuse me?
I'm sorry, Councilman. Motion by Councilman Valentine, and second by Councilman Cullen. Discussion, Councilman Schicksnyder.
What are your plans for 19, for Lemonville there?
Lemonville Park.
Is that for bids? Or
You have to bid, yeah.
because it says on here, just proceed with plans.
No, that's why I said we want to combine both of them. I just made a mistake on that, I believe, I'd like to bid for both of them.
We need to amend the motion to seek permission to seek bids for the climbing wall.
Not plans. Scratch plan.
Okay. You made the motion?
So amended.
Okay. Amended motion by Councilman Valentine. And a second by Councilman Cullen. Okay. Any further discussion? Any objection? So moved. Okay, item number 20, permission to proceed with plans for pavilions and walk trail at Lowry Park. As funds become available. Mr. Gotro.
This is something we'll have to get the plans for, walk trail through the new park. That's the park that's next to Lori School where school board gave us part of the property. And we have to get the plans for the pavilion and also the walk trail, how we're going to do it, the size of it, everything else and all. And as funds become available, we'd like to proceed with it.
Okay.
And we'll present the same thing to the West Side Committee.
Make a motion to proceed with that.
Motion by Councilman Joseph, second by Councilman Todd Lambert. Discussion, Councilman Lambert?
And the plans, what's the, is there a total amount of money we're going to spend on the plans?
We're not sure.
Because we are looking at just plans.
Yeah. Just plans.
You putting the plans out for bid? For
Well, we haven't
different-
even planned. I mean, that's we're in the process of doing right now. We want to get y'all
Okay.
permission.
Okay.
And we'll come back to the committee, before we put it out for bids.
Okay. But the plans is going to cost a certain amount of money from somebody, whoever's engineering them. I
Sure.
guess you don't have that figure is what I'm saying.
No.
I know who's engineering.
We just want to get started with it.
Okay.
We
All
may
right.
be able to do it in-house, some of it in-house.
Okay. That's all I got, Mr. Chairman.
All right, motion and a second. Any discussion? Any objection? So moved.
Motion adjourned, Mr. Chairman.
Motion adjourned by Councilman Todd Lambert. Second by Councilman Dempsey Lambert. Meeting adjourned.